I've spent some time thinking about how you should be implementing Copilot across your whole organization and building a target operating model that I hope you find useful. The primary objective here is to make sure that you get the right return on investment, that you don't just go and enable licenses or just think that it's Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and a bit of Outlook and Teams. It's not, there's so much more. So let's take a deep dive into what this actually looks like and why you should think about all these different elements to make sure that you're getting your bang for your buck for your Copilot for Microsoft 365 licenses. So let's get stuck in. So this is that target operating model, and I hope you see this and you see how this is working. Just to roughly go over the different color codes and how this is working, dark blue is what you get as part of your Microsoft licensing. So when you buy and you give a license to somebody for Copilot for Microsoft 365, these are the features that get lit up in all these different products that are available to them. Gray is where you've got some customization and where you can go off and do certain elements to help you with your own data. Your own data being there in that light blue over here on the right hand side. And also we've got to look at actually how are people using prompting? How are they actually using this to gain business value, to achieve certain business goals? And that is that light blue. This is where you've actually got to go off and do something. You've got to implement things. You've got to put processes, training in place. So let's take a bit more of a look into some of these different elements, because having had conversations with different organizations, there are some key things that people just aren't getting right or even aware of, which I think is really important. So let's start with Copilot Labs. The reason why I want to talk a bit more about Copilot Labs is the fact that so many organizations that I speak to just don't know anything about Copilot Labs. This is your adoption. This is the first place you should be going to for any kind of prompts that you want to use inside the platform. If you're working with your training and development teams, if you're passing out user guides, first thing to tell users is go to Copilot Labs, because we've got example prompts from Microsoft that we can use. Let me just show you how you can get to this and how you can navigate around. So I've opened up Microsoft Teams and I have gone to the Copilot app down that left hand side. This is what I get when I get my Copilot for Microsoft 365 license assigned. And yes, here I can go off and I can do my chat, and we may go into this a little bit more detail later on. But what you may well notice here is that it says view prompts. So I'm going to click on view prompts, and as you can see here, it says prompts from Copilot Lab. This ability to be able to see what can we do, what's new, take your task, what should be on my radar for emails last week. So it's going to go off, it's going to go and look at our mailbox and come back with what kind of prompts are there. And if I click on that as an example, you can see that it's filled it out here for me at the very bottom. What if I click on this see all prompts? And this is where it will open up a new window. It goes to copilot.clouds.microsoft, and we've got this view prompts. And you can see that there's a lot more prompts in here, and I can click on show more, and I can continue to click on show more, and there are all sorts of prompts. Of course, I want my users to go here. That's the first place they should go. To be able to see what kind of thing can I do with this AI features, Copilot. I hear so much about it. What can I do? What's the latest from person organized by email, chat, and files? That's actually a really good prompt to be able to go off, and you can use this in that Copilot area inside of Teams or inside of the web. We can list it by application. I want to see what's in there for stream. I want to be able to see what kind of best for creation, understanding, edit, ask. There are so many different Copilot features. This is one we should be starting off with for all our users. So when I speak to organizations, I say, what are you doing with Copilot Labs? And they turn around and go, what's that? For me, prompting doesn't stop here. It doesn't stop just because you got Copilot Labs. How are you going to learn from each other? How are you actually going to go off and actually go, you know what, this prompt was really good for me, and I found this prompt really useful. How can teams work together? How can the marketing team share what they've learned from a general prompting point of view? I don't just mean actually Copilot here. I mean any form of AI across the whole of your organization. As you can kind of see, it says prompting here inside of my little Tom, and it says prompting. This is what I mean by all of your AI prompting. What are you doing to store all good practice prompts within your organization? Copilot Labs feeds into this. But what are you doing for all of it? This is really key. As an organization, how are you going to teach newcomers coming on? And that's why we've got the learning and development, your training teams helping with that process. It's not IT's responsibility to go off and train everybody with how to use AI. It is down to learning development. Many organizations will have some form of start and have cybersecurity training, will have some kind of environmental training to support them with sustainability. But actually, what are you going to do to train all people in artificial intelligence, in AI, in prompting, large language models? So maybe they can use Copilot, so they can use Copilot for 365. They can use whatever large language model and AI that's built into your sales application, to your asset management solution. Prompting is not just with Microsoft, it does sit in other places. And that's why you must consider, where am I going to store these things? How am I going to build communities? How am I going to build champions groups to actually help me build better prompts and share that within the organization? What we also have to consider here, going back to the diagram here, is what are the business goals that you're trying to achieve with artificial intelligence? Do you want to be able to analyze documents more, better investigation, research, creation of content creation? Maybe it's different for different teams and groups within your organization. And how is it going to help you with that productivity? How are you measuring productivity now? And how are you going to measure it after you've actually given everybody a Copilot for Microsoft 365? Or just the pilot users? How are you going to measure these things? Because at the end of the day, if you're putting an investment into a new application, you want to make sure that the goal is being achieved from an organizational point of view. So now looking at this top light blue color here, Copilot for Microsoft 365 feeds into the business goals that you're trying to achieve. If it's not achieving things, you're not getting a return on investment from your licensing. You've got to assess, how are these prompts being used? What's a good prompt? Feed it back into that learning and development, that training element, back into a central location for all your prompts that users can train. And you're in this ever learning cycle now of what Copilot can do for you. This, I think, is the biggest impact and change. Microsoft, at the beginning of the year, they released a document from Microsoft Research that talked about the uses of large language models. And within this, they talked about the most important thing and the best form of output for AI is prompting. What are you doing to train prompting? Great. You've actually gone off and you've implemented prompting and you're teaching people, new starters, learn what AI is and large language models, helping them to get up to speed with the maturity you are as an organization. You've got an ever-growing staff maturing in the use of prompting in AI and sharing it between the champions group and sharing it out against the whole organization. You can go off and you can give it prompts. But if you say, tell me everything about Alex Pierce as an example, it's only going to look at the data locations that you have permission to within the Microsoft Graph. I like to mainly say that this is your mailbox, your OneDrive, and the SharePoint files across Teams and any other kind of SharePoint areas of data. That's what it's going to come back with, whatever it is within there. But I want to know everything about Alex Pierce. What else can it go off and find in other locations? And that's why this is kind of lighter grey, as you can kind of see here, coming in from the right-hand side, is about your data. What other pieces of data can you bring in from your organization? And there are two or different ways that we can actually go off and do this. So let's just kind of concentrate here a bit more around that top layer and the Microsoft Graph. So the graph, as I've just mentioned, is your data, your personal files and content within your mailbox and your OneDrive that you can pull through in there. We can control some of this through the Microsoft Purview platform. And at some point in the future, we will look at Purview and the importance of that from an organizational point of view. But we now have some features within the graph and how Copilot is working, where we can actually exclude some SharePoint sites from Copilot. And you might go, great, I can now, you know what, I've got that worry about what it might look like for our senior leadership, our exec board team. I'll just remove it. So actually none of that data will ever get into Copilot. And that's great. But the problem is, if you do take advantage of this restricted SharePoint search, as it's called, you are actually removing the ability for them to use any search within that team, that SharePoint site. So think about what you might want to be able to do with that. You've also got graph extensibility, this ability to be able to add more endpoints and data into the graph. Now, as a bit of a value add here to remember about graph extensibility is there are certain limits. You've got to remember how permissioning works. You've got to remember how many actual extensibility and the bits of data you can put into it. So don't just jump and go lots of data. Be planning around what you want to be able to doing as part of this. And there are apps as well that help you with being able to put more bits into this graph data. The other one that I'm quite excited about as a product, as this bottom layer, is Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio is absolutely brilliant as a platform to be able to go off, integrate different parts of APIs using some of this Power Virtual Agent technology that came out previously, and be able to go off and build your own Copilots. What a great opportunity to be able to bring in data from multiple locations. That data could come from your Fabric environment, that could come from an OpenAI service that you've built inside of your private Azure environments. And we can go off and we can start to use these things. I think it's incredibly powerful that actually all of a sudden I can say, tell me everything about Alex Pierce. And it truly can go off to our asset management solution. It can go off to our CRM. It can go off to Copilot Sales, Copilot, whatever it may be. But these can be APIs outside of the Microsoft platform to support you with getting the information you need for the prompt, for that output that you want, but maybe even better business decisions, that investigation, that creation, that analysis that I was talking about earlier on, that business goals. This is where Copilot Studio can really kick in and help. If you don't know what Copilot Studio is, do go off and look at it. The licensing is very different and a lot more cheaper than it was. You pay for the tenancy. It's about $2,000 for the year. That's nothing compared to what Copilot for Microsoft 365 might cost you for as an organization. So do go back and have a look about what that is and what that can do for you. Now, as a final thing just here, loading up the target operating model, just remember a few additional things that kind of come in here. You get it inside of Windows, you get it inside of Edge. You can open up the mobile applications. And just to show you an extra feature here as part of our Copilot, when I am here and I'm taking in my data, yes, it's going to go off and it's going to search for everything inside my mailbox, my OneDrive, my SharePoint files, as I was saying earlier on. But if I bring in the plugins, I can get more plugins. I can also say, you know what else can you find on the internet as well? So don't forget this as part of your training and the opportunity to be able to do more with your Copilot. So do remember everything that you've seen here on the screen. What are your business goals by delivering this? How are your learning development teams going to come in? How are you going to tell people about Copilot Labs? But what other bits of data are you going to be able to bring in to help people make decisions and have data around AI? And tell all your users all those different areas of where actually they can consume this. Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote. Remember, OneNote has only got one of the applications that actually works. So you need to figure that out. The new Outlook. And as you can kind of see here, just listing off very quickly the other ones. OneDrive, Loop, Designer, Planner, Teams, Stream, Whiteboard, Power Platform, Forms, SharePoint. These are all applications that have got Copilot for Microsoft 365. So we must remember all of the different applications that come as part of this. You want a true return on investment. Train everybody on the applications, on all the applications that is an opportunity for you to be able to use. Build SharePoint pages quicker for you. Use the designer service to be able to create images. This is where you're going to get a true return on investment from Copilot. So I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please do click on the like button, and also don't be afraid to subscribe. It'll be great to have more people watching videos. And if you found something that's really informative and you want to add actually some comments around, you know what, this is how I have implemented Copilot. Have you considered this, Alex? Please do add that, and this helps everybody in the community. But until then, I'll see you the next time on the Value Add.